seriously violent that first one really is.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because Verhoeven, you know, at least for the next couple films that he did, that was like his style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he was always having trouble with the MPAA. But it's nuts. I mean, I think I finally saw this around the time that RoboCop 2 came out, so like 1990.
Okay.
I was, 10 going on 11, possibly. So that's about the time that I saw it, and just absolutely love it. And why we're talking about it, why we held off, and it's not your normal Friday movie, and it's coming out on Easter Sunday, is because there's always been kind of this religious aspect to the film that a lot of critics and even Verhoeven himself has verified that it's kind of a Christ allegory. The violent death, the resurrection, the becoming who he was meant to be, or accepting his identity. And then even the little bit where he walks on water in the climax of the film, or appears to walk on water in the climax of the film. So this was supposed to be our March film, and I said, why, if you are comfortable doing it, why don't we hold it until Easter Sunday? Because I just think it'll be funny to have, the Jesus, the super hyper violent Jesus allegory sci-fi movie come out on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious, an idea coming from you, who is a big believer in science. So I was like, wow, that's I did not see that one coming. Yeah.
Well, I knew that it always had that religious imagery to it. So I said, well, it might be better suited coming out on Easter Sunday. So thank you for holding off on the release for a couple of days. I know that's not your normal release window.
No problem at all, man. I think that's a totally fun, and I feel like podcasts should try to do things like, be creative and set yourself aside from other shows in that way.
Well, we have a yearly Christmas episode. I don't think we're going to have a yearly Easter episode. There's not a whole lot of great Easter type movies.
Definitely not.
But this is the one. This is the one. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for letting me talk about RoboCop.
Of course, man. Well, why would we not talk about RoboCop? It's such a good movie. I feel like it's endless. You could talk about it forever and do probably multiple episodes on why it's so good. But no, yeah, I'm glad you picked it, and I'm glad we're able to do it. As you and I. It's a terrific film. Definitely, I think, has sparked a lot of a lot of sci-fi films that have come after it were highly influenced by this one, and I think you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a big cultural impact, and a big part of it is not just the RoboCop, character, but also like the satire in the film and what it's kind of commenting on. As you mentioned in your write-up in the beginning, which was the gentrification and the privatization of a lot of public entities and services, the war on crime, the war on drugs, even like the fear of nuclear war. Mm-hmm. That they have the commercial for the board game. Was it Nukem?
Yeah, that's so bizarre where that's placed.
It's early on in the film. It's like one of the first commercials.
Yeah.
I think before they even get to the real movie, when it just starts off, because it starts off with the newscast and then a couple of fake commercials and then goes back into the news before it actually gets into the film proper. But yeah, I think it's got a big cultural impact to the point where I think Detroit is still trying to resurrect the statue of RoboCop. Like Philadelphia has the Rocky statue, like Detroit's going to have the RoboCop statue.
I believe they did a Kickstarter for it and raised over $60,000 to get the statue.
Well, hopefully that gets done, because I think it'll be pretty funny.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Even though the movie does not put Detroit in a good light.
Oh, no. It's all dystopian and crazy. Just like the fat cats running everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny is that the movie's making fun of them because it's like they will do absolutely anything to make money. They have no moral compass, and I feel like it's easy to turn your brain off and not look as deep into a film like this, but it really is just the same way that Starship Troopers is talking about how fascism is stupid. This one is just saying, like, maybe capitalism really isn't our friend at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Or at least when it's unchecked.
Yeah, and especially in the privatization of a lot of things, it's the police department is a business in the movie instead of being the public service that it should be.
And from what I remember watching it just the other day, they say that the police force in this film are underfunded, right? And that's why they're having trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, they got taken over by OCP. Which did you watch the Honest trailers?
No.
RoboCop?
I may have seen them years ago, but no, I haven't watched them recently. I probably should have.
They make a joke that OCP, which stands for Omni Consumer Products, according to the movie, makes kind of everything but consumer products. It's all like military and space exploration stuff. So where do we even begin to really dig into the movie? Well, let's start with Verhoeven.
Okay.
Verhoeven is Dutch. He had been working in the Netherlands for a while, making movies, and RoboCop, I think, was his first studio film, but his first English language film came a few years earlier. It's called Flesh and Blood. With Rutger Hauer. It takes place during the Crusades. Rutger Hauer was like his main actor in a lot of his Dutch films. Rutger Hauer was Dutch as well. So he had made Flesh and Blood, was not a hit. Really hard movie to kind of get into and watch.
Okay.
I asked you earlier if you had seen it when we were talking.
I have not, but I would give it a watch, Yeah,
I recommend checking it out, but it was a movie that after I watched it was kind of like, I don't need to see this again. But he made that. It wasn't a hit. Was kind of like not really sure what he wanted to do. This script came across at him, and as you mentioned, he had turned it down a few times, or two or three times.
Yes.
Yeah, he turned it down, and then it was his wife that convinced him. I think his main issue was because he wasn't a native English speaker. He didn't understand a lot of the dialogue. He didn't get a lot of the satire.
Yeah.
But it was his wife that really, you know, pointed all this stuff out to him, kind of pointed out like what the main themes of the movie were, and then he kind of connected to it.
It's that's incredible that had it not been for his wife, we wouldn't have got the film as we know it today, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She kind of changed the course of history, because otherwise he would have threw that shit in the trash.
Which is, didn't you tell me that's exactly what he did?
Yeah, he read
the first time.
Yeah, he read I think just the very first page, which I think, if my mind serves me correctly, it would be maybe a minute of footage.
Yeah, it's about a page per screen time.
And yeah, and he threw it right in the garbage. And I think, yeah, they had to, one of the writers had to send him another copy of it for him to read. So that's hilarious. But yeah.
Can you imagine being the trash guy and then finding that in the trash? Finding this script for this crazy movie in the trash?
Oh, man.
So before he said yes to doing the movie, you know, Orion Studios, and we need to talk about Orion Pictures for a moment, but before we get into that, Orion had tried to convince a couple other directors to take the job, and two of the prominent ones I came across in the research were Alex Cox, who did Repo Man before that, and Repo Man's another movie that's just like a great kind of sci-fi film. You know, it's one of the all-time great punk films. That's a movie that I think you and I would do well to cover.
Yes,
because that's another one of my favorites. Alex Cox turns it down. They offered it to David Cronenberg, who was fresh off of The Fly, and he turned it down, and that blew your mind.
Yeah, I can't believe. Still, right now, I'm just like, what were you doing, man? You should have took this.
Yeah, it's like right up his alley. It's like the gore, the body horror in the film. Nuts. Like that's definitely the type of movie that you would have been well suited to make. But they both turned it down, and even to the point where Orion was having trouble finding someone to direct it. One of the co-writers, Michael Miner, had offered up his services because he was an aspiring director, and Orion didn't want to turn that big of a budget over to an untested director. Okay. So they held off on that, and finally, at the behest of his wife, Verhoeven said yes, and was on board with the film. Even though he wanted some script changes, and Neumeier and Miner obliged him, and wrote the script or touched up the script in the way that he wanted, and then he realized that he was wrong, and the script was better the first time around without his input. I was reading he wanted like a romantic relationship with Murphy and Lewis, his partner.
Which is, I felt like it's great where they're playing her as the, when we were introduced to her, she kicks the shit out of a guy before we even know her gender. Yeah. And they kind of desexualized her and made her, with the short hair and kind of not just the cute sidekick. And I really enjoyed that because of how old this film is. It's 87. That's thinking way ahead of its time. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and that's kind of been Verhoeven's thing. I mean, he does that clearly in Starship Troopers. Yes, and even Total Recall, Rachel Ticotin's character is very much Schwarzenegger's equal. But that was kind of a bad call on Verhoeven's part, and I'm glad that he realized his mistake and changed it back, because Lewis is very much Murphy's equal in their scenes together, even when he's Murphy as RoboCop. Mm-hmm. In the climax of the film, she's very much his equal. So that's good, and they went with the original script instead of Verhoeven's input on it. So I told you we should talk briefly about Orion Pictures.
Okay.